We have coffee here if you've already haven't had your fifth cup of coffee for the day.
I'm on six, but
Are you really?
yeah.
I don't get that. So it's 10 o'clock, so we'll shoot for like a half hour, like 10:30ish. So
Okay.
you're on your sixth cup of coffee and it's 10:05. How does that work?
It's a little bit slower than usual
Do you sleep?
sometimes.
So all right, six, not even a quarter of the way through the day. So how many do you think you're gonna drink today?
Probably a couple more.
10?
Yeah, I got to bartend later, so
Oh my God. All right. So we'll get to that later. But thanks for being here. I know it was a little bit of a drive. And it's even better to have you on the CB side. So, for those of you who don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself and talk about how you recently joined us? And I'd like to hear more about the transition and what's been the biggest difference so far between previous and where you're at now.
so my name is Maddie Churchill. I am with Coldwell Banker Professionals of Port Huron. I recently switched from EXP to Coldwell. The difference is incredible. The most difference is the amount of support that I didn't have with my previous brokerage. With Coldwell, it's night and day difference.
So, what caused you? Because I know we were kind of talking about before you made the move. What kind of caused you to make that push and say, okay, it's time for me to make the move? Like, what was the deciding factor for you?
Honestly, I felt burnt out
Mm,
with my previous brokerage. It was very, I don't know. They preach support.
hmm
There is actually none. Like you have to, like if you want to talk to a broker, you either have to text them through, I don't know, workplace, or you had to log in, basically Sims. I don't know if you've seen the
Yeah.
EXP avatar world. You had to walk to the broker's office in this avatar world, take a ticket, wait in line with your avatar, and then speak to your broker through the EXP world.
Wow. So that was like the model. Like, so there was no one in there personally on staff that could like guide you or help you with anything.
Not with my particular office. There was no broker. Sometimes you just need a broker.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of people that I could have asked for advice, but when I did, a lot of it was just talk to the broker about it. But it
Mm.
was such a pain to get a hold of the broker that it
Yeah.
just wasn't useful.
Kind of counterproductive, right?
And nothing ever goes wrong during business hours.
Yeah. It's always after,
It's
right?
always after when you can't talk to somebody until tomorrow. And then when you have your buyer or seller freaking out about something that's going wrong, you can't help them until the morning. That sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's like kind of like a helpless feeling, right?
Exactly.
Because you need an answer, but you can't get one. So, okay. How about the environment? Has there been any big difference in the environment and the agents that you deal with?
Absolutely. That is probably the biggest difference.
Okay.
It's with the particular office that I was in, it was a lot of show. I don't know if those are the right words to
Facade.
use. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, it was a lot of look at me and look at what I'm doing, not a lot of
Actual results.
useful training.
Yeah.
Useful training. Like with the Coldwell meetings every Tuesday, we sit down, we actually talk about real estate and not just social media. Although social media is very crucial,
hmm
you can only do so much with social media. That doesn't help you with what's actually going on behind the scenes because the public doesn't probably know how much it actually takes when it comes to all the contracts and everything. With Coldwell, we sit down every week and we actually talk about this stuff. Like last week we reviewed a purchase agreement and how to properly fill it out. And I know that's probably minute to seasoned agents,
hmm
but it doesn't hurt to go over it again.
No, no. Especially because I mean, if you're out there and you're running and gunning and doing deals, but you don't know how to fill out the paperwork, I mean, you're a walking liability to begin with.
There is plenty of agents that will leave half of it blank
It's nuts. It's
and then
nuts.
they'll complain about it, or their buyer or seller will try to change it
hmm
halfway through the transaction.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of bad agents
Yeah.
out there. It's crazy, but yeah. So I mean, we kind of pride ourselves on being a professional sales organization, right? We're not, hey, here's the shiny thing, come over here. We have this, the virtual, all that BS. So I'm glad to see that you saw that, and I know you had a pretty good start just coming over here. So I mean, you got like a top agent or something, right? I saw that.
Yeah, I started with, I think it was the first day that I was officially completely transferred over to Coldwell. I ended up getting 4 property listings, and
If that isn't validation, you made the right move. I don't know what is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Something about it.
Yeah. So how long you been in the business now?
A little over 2 years.
Okay. And so now being in it a couple years, what has been your biggest challenge and what has been like your biggest aha moment, if anything?
Finding clients
Okay.
is definitely, and I think that'll always probably be the hardest
Mm-hmm.
until I get more established. My biggest aha moment was realizing that I'm not cut for the phones. And I know that's your
Yeah.
main thing, and I don't have the personality for it. I need the face to face going out there and meeting people, and that's how I feel better making the relationships last.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's my thing about it.
And that's like 99% of people. They're not cut out for the phones. They don't like it, right? It's like a callus you have to build over time. So how did you go about getting face to face with people and generating leads if it wasn't by the phone?
Well, I would go out and I would go to these social events or whatever and just really meet new people. And it was really working for a little bit. And I just realized, like, I'm starting to see the same faces over and over again. And that's not a bad thing because it's still a relationship, but I needed more. So my bright idea was to take on bartending,
Okay.
which I started pretty much the same time I started with Caldwell. And that has been the best decision that I've made.
Yeah, you're having face to face
I'm having
conversations.
face-to-face conversations. I'm getting paid to make these relationships with these people.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievably fun.
That's awesome. So how do you bring up the real estate conversation when you're face to face with somebody?
I don't even have to do it.
Really?
It comes because I'm the youngest bartender that this bar has. So everybody wants to know who I am,
Mm-hmm.
when did I start, and it's so easy for me just to bring it up.
Do you feel uncomfortable ever doing it?
No, never.
Mm. So what would you say to someone who wants to get face to face, but they feel uncomfortable or kind of salesy or pushy when they say, "Hey, I'm in real estate." Like, how would you approach that conversation?
It's not as like it's not as hard as it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
If you're nervous, you got to do it a couple times to get comfortable with being uncomfortable
Yeah.
and put yourself in the position to bring it up. Basically, it will come up. Like everybody, it's small talk. Like,
Yeah.
what do you do for a living? It's so easy to insert that into a conversation. It's not science.
Yeah. It's pretty natural,
It's
right?
pretty natural.
Yeah. So you mentioned getting comfortable, uncomfortable. So what positions do you put yourself in to remain uncomfortable to cause that growth?
Um, Basically just doing it.
Doing it?
Yeah, just doing it.
Okay. Well, I know you also work out, right? So that's part of it because that's not always fun. Plus, if you have a long day, you don't want to go to the gym, but you remain disciplined, and you seem pretty disciplined. So, what if anything? Is that something that naturally came to you, or is that something you had to build over time? Your discipline.
That came from a very young age,
Okay.
working for my dad. That's actually how I started out. I finished homeschool pretty early so that I could work for my dad at his construction company and run his office for him. And if you know my dad, he is one of the most strict people ever. I love him to death, but he inserted that discipline into myself very quickly, and that's basically where I learned it from. He was a drill sergeant in the army, if that
Okay.
makes any
Yeah. Yeah.
sense,
That makes
as to
sense.
why he was so strict. But it was working for my dad was very. You had to be,
Had every stuff together.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, that was built throughout, the way you were brought up, which is great. Do you ever find yourself struggling with discipline now?
No, not at all.
Hmm.
Not at all. It's basically second nature.
Okay, good. So what, if anything, regarding, okay, aside from leads, and you said you expressed some burnout, was that because of just everything that was going on, or you felt like you needed more? Or like what caused the burnout, do you think?
That was a mix of everything for me. The biggest thing being the environment
Okay.
of this particular office. I
Mm-hmm.
was very burnt out with the flashiness of social media, just the social part of it in general. It was hard to make myself fit in, basically.
Okay.
Because I know that's not me. I look at them and I know this isn't me, and I'm struggling to make myself fit in, and I'm spending so much time trying to make myself fit in with these guys that I'm missing out on.
Really?
Yeah.
You tried to make yourself fit in?
Oh, absolutely.
Why?
It's toxic
Yeah.
over there.
So do you feel like you just had to do it to kind of survive, or just you wanted to
Oh
be
yeah.
part of the club, or
No, to survive. To
really?
survive.
Wow. Hmm.
And just the lack of actual support. That was one of the biggest things when I was leaving. A couple of the agents that I previously worked with were like, it's actually not that hard to get a hold of the broker. You just have to get into the world or text them. And what they didn't understand, where I was coming from, it is nothing goes wrong during business hours. And I do not like letting my clients wait until the next day when they're
Yeah.
freaking out. They can't go to sleep
Yeah.
thinking, the transaction's going to fall apart, or just basic questions. Like it was stupid. Like there was at one point I had one of the brokers from this world had me in tears because I didn't know, there was something about a purchase agreement that I didn't understand, and one of the people came back at me and questioned me on it. So I went to the broker and he's like, "You should have learned this. Like, how did you even, like, this was one of the questions on the test. Like, why don't you know this?" And just belittling me.
Wow.
And you only know what you're taught. And there wasn't a whole lot of business basically being taught where I was. It was 100% social media.
Really? So there was no sales training, no lead generation, no.
Hardly. And when it was not very in depth, or it was just basic training.
Hmm. Interesting. Isn't that funny? Everyone's got their own different sales process or whatever it is, and I love social media. It's a great part of the
Oh,
business.
absolutely.
But at the end of the day, you cannot replace face-to-face conversations or phone conversations, building that relationship, because that's where the business and the future business is going to come from. So yeah, you can throw anything out there on social media and, flash whatever you want to flash, but that's a short-term solution to a long-term business, and it's just not going to work over time.
No.
Mm-mm. What about personal? So like, what do you like to do aside from work? Like, what hobbies do you have?
I just like to hang out with my dog.
Hang out with your dog?
I'm a skilled baker.
Okay.
Not to toot my own horn,
Okay.
but
So what do you bake?
everything. Everything. I've got this cookie recipe that I've been
Yeah.
working on since I was 14, finally perfected. The
Really?
best cookies you'll ever have in your whole life.
It's a
Swear
bold
to God.
statement. She just said the best
Swear to
cookies you ever
God.
had. So do you have like a testimonial or someone who can prove that?
Everybody that I know.
Okay, so Port Huron office, you heard that. So she's going to bring in cookies to
I will.
test.
I'm already bringing Bloody Marys next Tuesday.
There you
so
go. There you
I'll
go.
bring cookies too.
I love it. So, okay, you like to bake. I know you like to work out. You like an outdoor, indoor person? Are you an introvert, extrovert? Like,
I'd say that I'm pretty extroverted. That's been definitely a shift since I've started real estate. I was very introverted.
mm-hmm.
And then once I started, I'm like, shit, like I,
Kind of forces
yeah,
you.
it forces you out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've just gotten so used to it. Like I love talking to people. I love making connections with people. That's why I enjoy bartending so much. I've gotten a lot of hate for it from, again, the previous brokerage, because it's, to them, it's stupid that I could be going out and getting leads. I'm like, but the leads are coming to me.
Right, right.
All I have to do is make them drinks, and I enjoy it.
Right.
I could not be happier with this decision to start bartending, because it's just been ridiculous. The amount of conversations, the amount of business cards I could give out on a single day.
That's awesome. It's again out of the box, thinking about how to get face to face, because that's your strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to play to your strengths. I'd love to hear your opinion on this, because I have my own thing, because we're similar in age. Do you have a tight friend circle? Do you have a lot of friends in your age group? How do they react to what you're doing? I mean, where are you at with all that?
So I don't have that many friends that are my age. My friends
Older.
are pretty much older than I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with that. I don't know. It's fun for me.
So you don't have really a tight group of people around your age that you associate with?
Not necessarily. Nope. If I do, they're from the same real estate office that I'm in. I do know I work with now at Coldwell. I work with a couple agents that are similar in my
Yeah,
age, and it's fun hanging out with them. Um, but yeah, my main group of friends are all
mine
older.
too. Mine too. So it's kind of funny. So what do you think it is? Because a lot of people our age, they just don't want to work. They
Exactly.
don't want to do anything. They want everything just, come to me, or I'm deserving and entitled of this. So I know I'm trying to ask you, it's a difficult question, but what do you think causes that or has caused it?
I think it's the maturity level
Okay. Okay.
for sure.
So do you think that a lot of people were just kind of protected and they haven't really faced a lot of adversity, so they're not used to it when they get smacked in the face with it?
Yeah. Yeah, 100% because and I think I would have been probably the same way if I would have chose the finish high school, go to college sort of
Hmm.
life. And that wasn't me. That's not how it worked out. No regrets on my part.
No.
I've loved the way that everything's gone so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And you pointed out an interesting thing. You said you were homeschooled.
I was.
So how was that experience?
Um, I loved it. So I started in elementary school, in public school. My family and I are from Port Huron.
Hmm.
So I think I finished fifth grade over in Port Huron, and then we moved to the Howell area when I was younger. And from there, I was just homeschooled the rest of the way. And I started working for my dad when I was about 14, 15, just, helping him with small things around his construction office. And then it just became my full-time job. So I finished homeschool relatively early, and I just helped my dad with his
Mm.
construction office, ran it for him, did a lot of billing, learned so much about business just from that experience, and I wouldn't change a thing.
So you were pretty much just a kid running the operations of a construction business. That's
Exactly.
incredible. That's better than a college degree, though.
And that's honestly how I felt because I don't think I would have learned this from the books. I'm more of a hands-on person,
Hmm.
so I think that was the most beneficial thing.
Oh yeah, I come from a construction background too. My dad owns a roofing company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was 12, 13, so the way it worked in my family is if you wanted something, you'd have to go work with dad, and he'd pay you, and then you buy it, right? So if I wanted like a new baseball bat, new cleats, or whatever it is, I have to carry ice and water shield shingles up the ladder for him, and I was his gopher. So I just pick stuff up, carry it up for him. 100 degrees on a summer day on the roof is not great. So going from that to this, I mean, real estate's pretty freaking easy compared to that. So I think that was kind of where I came from too. But I agree 100%. If you can get into trade work, construction, whatever it is, anything else you're going to do is going to be pretty easy compared to that. So the
100%.
fact that you did that at such a young age is kind of probably why you're at where you're at now.
It definitely taught me the fundamentals of business operation,
Hmm.
basically. It taught me without even thinking twice about it. I had a set schedule every single day that I was following to a T because I didn't want to piss my dad off.
Yeah,
Like, I
right.
don't, if
The
you've met
drill
my dad,
sergeant. Yeah.
exactly. I don't want to piss him off. I don't want to make his life harder. He's already booked out as it is. So my job was to take all of that off his plate as much as I could. So I think I would get into work at 7 in the morning, and by 9 all of the daily tickets had to be done. By 10, phone call, like all that stuff,
Yeah.
all up until like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You were busy at all times,
Every day, 5 days a
every
week,
day.
sometimes 6, 7 days a week,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yep.
So without thinking, it was basically like it taught me how to make a daily schedule.
Hmm. Oh yeah, and to have that discipline because you
Yeah,
didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, yeah. So looking where you're at now, 5, 10 years down the road, what's kind of your ultimate goal? Like, what are you pursuing towards? Where would you want to be, in the next 5, 10 years if you had to put yourself somewhere?
I go back and forth with this
Okay.
all the time. I love real estate, so I hope to still be in real estate. I'm 1 year away from less than a year now from getting my broker's license. I'm very interested in that. I don't really know if I want a team. I think I just want the license just to
Okay.
say that I have it and for the extra knowledge. Uh, I would like to open a bakery at some point in my
A
life.
bakery?
I don't know if
Okay.
that's going to be within the next 10 years or what. Maybe
Okay.
that'll just be a settling down project. I don't know. I would love to have rentals. I'm very interested in that.
Yep. We can talk about that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So, okay, rentals, potential bakery. Do you have like a set vision for yourself as to like, okay, if I, because I talk to this with a lot of people, is, what's your perception or idea of success, right? Like, where do you feel like, okay, I've made it? Is it a number amount? Is it a goal? Like what is it to you that would define success for yourself?
Having the income come in from investment properties or such, just basically being happy and not having to worry about bills or such. Not saying I need like a shit ton, just
Yeah, yeah.
like enough
To be
to be
comfortable.
comfortable. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
But I think happiness is where the root of success comes in. Because if you're not happy, like you could have the nicest car in the world, but if you're not happy, what are you doing?
I know a lot of people live in a lot of big houses and they're miserable.
Exactly.
Happens all the time. But so happiness is a choice. It's not really a destination, in my opinion,
Hmm.
right?
Oh,
So if you're like, hey, if I get to this point, I'll be happy, that's never going to happen.
yeah.
You got to make a choice. But yeah, passive income is the way to go. So we're all in real estate. So I mean, if you're not learning how to invest, I mean, yeah, it's a pain in the ass to get a renter to pay rent every month. And if you're not willing to stay on them, they're not going to pay. But if you're willing to do that and put up with it in the short term and build that portfolio up, that's when you're pretty much living for free
Exactly.
because that cash flow is coming in, is paying all your expenses, and it's tax free and it's a write off. So it's just like, it's ridiculous, the benefits. So do you have a target date for your first one you want to buy?
No, no target date. I just know that I want it and when the time is right, because thus far everything has just happened at perfect timing.
Yeah.
That's basically what I'm relying on. There's no
Okay.
set date for me, just it's a goal. When it happens, it happens.
Okay. I like that. So how do you respond to adversity or problems?
Alcohol.
Okay. Okay. All right. It's a good vice, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So alcohol. Are you kind of the person that just, okay, after I have a couple drinks that you kind of can remain calm and then think through a solution, or do you get worked up? Like, how does that process work?
It really depends on the situation. If it's, I don't know, like if it's, I don't know the word I'm looking for. If it needs to be handled right away,
If it's urgent.
if it's urgent, I will probably get a little worked up, call my mom,
Okay.
calm
Yeah,
down,
right.
and then work out a solution.
Okay. All right. Because we're in the problem business.
Yeah.
That's what we get paid for, is to solve problems,
Oh, yeah.
right? So, and I think a lot of that is back to what you were saying earlier, is it depends on your history and your background as to how much experience you have with those problems. Because like I wake up and I'm like, all right, how many problems are going to happen today? Like I look forward to it and embrace it. Like, okay, this is going wrong. Of course, perfect. That's typical. Let's
If
deal with it.
you can expect it to go wrong, it's going to be a lot easier to
Yeah.
take care of
Yeah.
it.
And that's kind of what I always talk with newer agents too. It's like you don't want to be cynical. It's a healthy balance between being cynical, being positive. You got to be a realist.
Exactly.
So if you go into a transaction saying, okay, everything's probably going to go wrong, and then if it does go wrong, okay, you expected that. But if it doesn't go wrong, it's like it's the best feeling ever, because then what you expected to happen didn't actually happen, and everything went great. But my first deal that I ever did, I was a for sale by owner that I took, that I called, and she told me after she listed, she only listed with me because she thought I was cute, which is fine. I was 19. Cash deal, easy. I'm like, wow, this is super easy. No problems, no inspection issues, like nothing, no appraisal. The deal after, I didn't have a clean deal after that in the last 8 years. That was the only clean deal I've ever had.
That happens.
Yeah. So you get that misconception. But again, it's the expectations change, because if you go into it thinking, yeah, there's going to be problems, that's what we get paid 6% for, and then you deal with them, that's just the nature of the business, right? And our job is to instill that confidence and calmness in our clients, because if we're freaking out, then they freak out, and then the whole thing just turns into a disaster.
Oh, I never let a client hear me or
Mm-mm.
sense that I'm freaking out.
Nope. Nope. You got to be that rock that's just
Exactly.
stable, right? Shit's going wrong all over the place. Yeah, that's good. We'll figure it out. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it. And then you hang up the phone, and then you
Like,
you down a couple of drinks, right? Yeah, yeah. So that's your image and your perception matters. And that's kind of another thing too. Is I believe it's very important the way you choose to present yourself to the world.
Mhm.
How you walk, how you talk, how you carry yourself, how you educate yourself. Self-investment too is part of that. So do you invest in yourself at all? Like, do you read? If you do, what do you read? Do you invest in anything else that helps you grow? Like, what is your thoughts on self-development?
It's very important because if you're not confident with what you're doing,
Hmm.
your work's going to be slimy.
Yeah, slimy, ethical. So that's a good one too. So do you think that ethics are something that erode over time, or do you think people just have them or people don't?
Some people do, some people don't. Some people can't even be taught ethics.
Really? Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I know, I know. And I think that's the same thing. But I also think people over time, like it's called commission breath, right? When you're dealing with an
Mhm.
agent who's got that credit card bill stacked
Oh,
up, they already
yeah.
spent their commission. They're so desperate for that commission check, they then put their own self interest above their client, and then the whole deal falls apart
Exactly.
because they can sense that too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all service oriented. So how do you deal with difficult people?
With a smile.
With a
It's
smile?
all you can do.
Okay. Do you ever engage or get fired with anybody?
If the situation calls for it, I'm not
Throw
afraid.
hands?
I haven't been there yet. And I say yet
Yes.
because I'm 2 years in.
Right, right. It may happen.
It may
It may
happen.
happen. I've thrown not in business, but I've thrown hands before. It's yeah. Sometimes you got to do it. But so okay. What is the most rewarding thing that you have gotten out of real estate so far, 2 years in? Like if you had to pick something that you would say was the most rewarding experience or the most rewarding thing you've taken away, what has it been?
The confidence. I was, like I told you earlier, I was very introverted
Mm-hmm.
when I first started because my everyday was like in this construction office all by myself.
Yeah.
My dad was usually out working. Sometimes my mom would be with me because she worked there too. Um, and it was just very comfortable, and you don't really get anywhere if you're always comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So with real estate, it really pushed me to mm, find confidence that I didn't realize that I had, or just really pushed me to be uncomfortable talking to people that like before real estate, I was very like I wouldn't even make conversation with anybody. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to keep to myself, and that is not the case anymore. I will talk to anybody at any given day, just make conversation with anybody, be anybody's friend.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't really how to put it. It's just it's very weird the shift that it pushed me to do.
Well, because the more you talk to people, the more opportunities you create for yourself,
Absolutely.
right? And so, was that a gradual process, or was that like, okay, I got my license, I know I got to do this, and I don't want to do it, and I just got to get it done?
It was gradual.
Okay.
It was gradual.
So, how long did that process take?
Probably one summer. So when I started, my very first listing was my parents. My very first buyer clients were my parents. And then after I had their two closings, I'm like, shit,
Yeah, right.
now
What now?
what?
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, and that kind of forced you to go out and talk to people that you may not know, or
Exactly.
get out of your comfort zone. Um, and that happens. So, I mean, for you to do it within the first year, because a lot of first year agents, they'll kind of just sit there and slowly die because they just won't force themselves to do what it is they know they need to do. So if you're talking to a new agent, you're their mentor, they just got licensed, they're introverted by nature, they don't want to talk to people, what would your advice be?
You got to do it.
There's
You
no
have to
choice.
do it. There's no choice. Don't think too much about it because you'll stress yourself out. Just do it. Pretend it's not even. It's such a normal thing though. It's like such a everybody lives on the same freaking planet. You see people all day freaking long, and
Hmm.
you gotta talk to them.
We're all human.
We're all human,
Hmm. But I think it stems from maybe self-consciousness, maybe.
for sure.
Yeah, because some people may not be sure of themselves, and it's like, hey, how can I go talk to someone? Or they're not confident in their value proposition because if I have to say, hey, I need you to work with me or I would like you to hire me, but I don't even believe in what I'm doing myself, how can I pitch it to somebody else?
That's true. Yeah, you have to have belief in what you're doing. You have to know that you're the not necessarily the best, but you have to think that you're the best
Hmm.
in order to present yourself as the best.
Yeah. Well, what you think becomes reality, right?
Exactly.
So your mindset is everything. Do you read it all?
No, but I do listen to podcasts
Okay.
or
What are you
audio
listening to?
books because it's the easiest for me when I'm driving.
Do you listen to like the murder stuff like every other girl listens to? Do you?
No,
Okay, good. Good.
no. But it is a lot of like Atomic Habits is the one that I'm listening to now. I just started that. I've been very
Okay.
excited to
There you go.
start it.
That's a good one too. So you listen to podcasts, which is good. What's your favorite or your favorite, or what's the biggest takeaway you've gotten from a podcast that you've been able to implement?
A lot of it has been confidence with real estate. And I turned to that because I wasn't getting it
Yeah,
with
right,
with
right.
brokerage.
You got to look elsewhere, which is
Yeah.
just terrible. Which you don't have to do that anymore.
No,
Um,
not at all.
but yeah, was that process difficult? That decision difficult to make? No,
One of the hardest
really.
decisions I've ever made in my it probably was the hardest decision I've ever made in my entire life. The
How
switch from EXP to Coldwell.
how long did it take you to really make that process? Like, when did you start thinking about making a move, and when did you actually make the move? How long was it?
Probably about a month.
Okay.
So I was thinking about it and I was very quiet about it. Um, I knew my parents were going to be supportive of whatever decision I had, and that was about it.
Really?
Yeah, because I knew that as soon as I like to describe it as a cult. You can, if you leave it in, I don't even
Sounds
care.
nice. Yeah, it's fine.
It was a cult basically. If you left, you're dead to them. And I knew that I was going to be facing a lot of backlash because most of my connections in Port Huron came from that small but powerful group.
Hmm.
And I knew that if I left, there was a chance that I wouldn't even make it in Port Huron, and that was my perception. Obviously, not the case. Was driving down to one of because we had like weekly meetings at a mortgage office in Troy.
Okay.
And I was driving down with Josh one day, and I mentioned to him, and he was the first person that I mentioned this to, that I was thinking about leaving. And he's like, well, because we see Janelle all the time
Hmm.
at, chamber meetings and all that. He's like, reach out to Janelle. I didn't have the balls. So he did it for me.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't even know this. When we were coming back from Troy, he's like, hey, we have to go here at this time. And I'm like, why? He's like, we just have a meeting. And in my head, I felt like I knew what he did, but it wasn't real until Janelle walked in the room. And I'm like, here we go.
So someone else actually kind of teed you up to move.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Because I thought that I was going to lose all of my connections, which not the case. And
No.
I tried to do it because I knew that it was not going to go over well when I left.
Hmm.
So I tried to do the best thing that I could think. And this was after I met with Janelle. Then a week later, I met with Janelle and Stacy. And I didn't make, like, I already knew in my head what I was doing. I just wasn't. I was so uncomfortable with the decision. And I tried to do the best thing in my head, which was talk to a couple of the agents face to face. Didn't go over good. Didn't go over good. I left one of the meetings in just tears because I was basically belittled, told that my work ethic sucked, that I just wasn't doing the work. And this was during like my burnout, so
Yeah.
of course my sales were down. Just told that I was making excuses. It wasn't the brokerage, which it's nothing against the brokerage. It wasn't right for me because I need more support than what they could have provided. Maybe other teams are different, and I'm not
Yeah.
shitting on other teams. Just where I was in that position, it wasn't good for me. So when I finally did make the switch and I transferred the license, I think it was a solid 2 weeks before I even announced it on social media because I was so down on myself in my head, I was letting all these people down. I know. But once everything was finalized, I felt such a relief. And I knew that I was making the right decision. But if you have 10 people telling you you're making the worst mistake of your life,
Yeah. It weighs on you.
it does weigh on you. And
Yeah.
it weighed on me. And it crushed me to know that I once considered, like, I looked up to these people and that this is where we've ended up.
You never really truly know somebody.
Exactly.
But the revealing factor for me would have been that when you go and tell these people that you feel like this is a better move for you personally, and they react in a way that is not aligned with your best self-interest. Because if they really cared about your best self-interest and you, they'd be supportive, because if that what you think is the best move for you, then of course I want you to do well. But they react in a way that it was going to reflect their own outcome and how their life's going to change, not yours, because they care about their own self-interest. So that reveals everything right there.
And it wasn't everybody. It was surprising to me the people that actually did support me. What I think struck me the most was the people that I did look up to were the ones that were the hardest on me about leaving.
Well, and some of them had a little bit of financial incentive on you, right? They make money when you sold.
True.
So of course that weighs into it as well. Man, that's terrible. But that just goes to show you, anyone out there that's listening, that's thinking about this, be careful and be aware, because you may think someone's on your side and they're not. So, and when the chips are down or when you make a decision like that, that always reveals everything.
Exactly.
So
again, though, I have no regrets. Like, I knew at that moment it was the best decision for me. It's been the most rewarding. I can't even tell you how much I love everybody at the Port Huron office. Coldwell Banker professionals. They are all so. It's not like the pyramid that I was used to. We're all working for ourselves, but the support there is ridiculously amazing.
Yep.
And everybody's just so fun. Like, we passed out water bottles for the boat night parade. So we walked around just before the parade started and we passed out water bottles. We all got together as a team, put our business cards on water bottles and just passed out water because it was a hot ass day. Everybody's thirsty. And that was like one of the most fun things for me. It was so like we all walking around with like wagons and shit. It was so fun. I don't know why. And then just the walk back, I knew like that day, I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
It's the environment and the people.
I love this so much.
It's the environment and people that make all the difference.
Exactly.
Yeah. So building, that's why it's exciting too to see where you're going to go, because now you're kind of unshackled. You can do what it is you want to do and not have to worry about that environment to be in. And now it's like, okay, let's find out what we can do. That's awesome. Sure. So, all right, we're over a half hour.
Oh,
so
sorry.
I know it's all good. It's all good. So anything else you want to throw out there for anybody else listening, maybe advice for a younger agent or anything that you've learned that you wanted to pass on? Give me something.
Start yourself with a brokerage that's going to actually train you in real estate and not just social media. Because yes, the younger generation, like, we already know how to do social media pretty well. But you're not going to get anywhere if you don't know what you're doing.
Yep. It's sales. Social media is great. It's a facet of the business, but it can't be your primary source. So learn the sales part of it. Thank you for being here. It was awesome to talk to you. I'm glad to have you on board, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for watching, guys. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, and we'll be talking to you again soon.